Welcome to the Jefferson City News Tribune City Council Forum for candidates seeking the Ward 2 position in the April 6th ballot. The forum is being conducted in a virtual format due to the pandemic. I'm Gary Castor, managing editor of the Jefferson City News Tribune. Prior to the forum, the candidates were given copies of the ground rules of the forum, which noted lengths of time given for opening and closing statements, as well as time allotments for responses to our questions. The questions for the forums were submitted by readers or by staff members of the News Tribune. The questions were not shared with the candidate before the forum. So let me introduce today's candidates. Laura Ward is running for her fourth and final term representing Ward 2. She's a senior compliance manager for the Office of Research and Economic Development at the University of Missouri. She's on the council's Public Safety and Administration Committee, as well as the Historic Preservation Commission. Edith Vogel previously served on the City Council from 1999 to 2007. She's a retired licensed practical nurse who previously worked for Jefferson City Correctional Center. Currently, she works for Jefferson City Coca-Cola Bottling Company. As we prepare to get started, I'll note that candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. As the forum progresses, each candidate will alternate answering the question first and will have 2 minutes to respond to the question. At the conclusion of the forum, they will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. So let's begin. We'll start with Laura, who has 2 minutes to do her opening statement.
Good evening, and I'd like to thank the News Tribune for inviting both of us to this forum to share with the community what we stand for and how we've been involved in our community. My name is Laura Ward, and I'm running to be reelected because I care about our community and its future. I want to help Jefferson City continue to be the great place to live, work, and raise a family. We live in a special community. We are regularly recognized in the Beautiful Cities list, and our cost of living is low. My husband and I moved here 21 years ago with our 2 children, Patrick and Ella, to receive a Catholic education for them. And I love this community. It's a great place to raise a family. I'm a doer. I'm not a talker. I've always worked in the community as a volunteer to help people in the neighborhoods I've lived in. For example, I served on St. Peter's School Board for 6 years, and I'm currently serving on the executive board for Building Community Bridges, which is an organization that is helping our underserved youth. And it also stepped up after the tornadoes and helped tornado victims. I've also organized grassroots things within my community to help them better, like the Lower Jefferson Conservation District in 2001. Where I organized the neighborhood to establish guidelines to protect the architectural structure of the architectural character of the structures within the neighborhood. That went to City Council, and Edith Vogel was on the council then and voted for it. She actually, during that council meeting, or during that entire summer that I attended every council meeting, said I was becoming a permanent fixture in City Council chambers. But we have a stable economy and a small town community feel where we support each other. We have a lot of issues that need to be addressed, our infrastructure and our stormwater issues. And I just want to help moving forward and help us to grow into an even better city.
All right. Edith, your opening statement.
Well, once again, I will also thank the News and Tribune for hosting this virtual meeting. I prefer in-face panels, and I am, Laura is correct. Everything she said, she is a doer. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. And she was very instrumental in everything that she has said she did. And I admire her for that. But the time has come, in my opinion, that she needs a little competition. And I am that person who wants to try to give the voters of the Second Ward an option. They are the ultimate decision makers in this process. So that's why I decided to seek election to the Second Ward Council seat. A little bit about myself. I'm born and raised in Jefferson City, Missouri. I am the 5th generation of an immigrant from Germany on my mother's side. I am the 4th generation of my grandfather, also immigrated from Germany. And those two men established the businesses that are still in existence here, and well, not the milling company. Mr. Dooley came over and in 1847, and he went to work at the Missouri State Penitentiary and cut firewood. And the penitentiary was started in 1836. And as he progressed on in his career, he then became, as the census of the United States would clarify, he was a farmer. But he also served as a sheriff of Cole County and a treasurer of Cole County. And he established the G.H. Dooley Milling Company in the Mill Bottom, which we now refer as the Mill Bottom, until it was closed in 1954. In the 1890s, Mr. Marshall, my mother's father, came from Germany and came up from St. Louis with his brothers and established the brewery that was on the south side called Capitol Brewery, which before that was the Wagner Brewery. And the Marshall brothers tore it down and built the Capitol Brewery, which was the largest employer on the south side. And it ceased to exist in 1947. And in 1922, the Marshall brothers obtained the franchise for the Coca-Cola soft drink. And our business has been going since 1892. And now we are Jefferson City Coca-Cola Bottling Company. My sister and I are partners with my nephew, and we supply over 450 different kind of soft drinks and powered drinks and energy drinks and kids drinks and I don't know how many kinds of water. And the historical significance of Mr. Dooley was when he was a brick builder in the Mill Bottom, he made and donated all the bricks that are in St. Peter's present church. And Mr. Marshall and his brother obtained a piece of land on Bolivar Street that was called the France Garden, and it was a place where you could drink beer. And they tore down the brewery and they obtained the property and they gave it to the Sisters of St. Mary's in 1905 to construct a hospital. They gave the property to the nuns with love and affection for $1. And that hospital ceased to exist down there on Bolivar Street in 2014. And a new hospital was built out on Mission Drive. And now it's very, very nice to see the hotel there with the stone from the old hospital. I'm very proud of my ancestors, and my family history here in town goes way back. And I was glad to serve on the council from 99 to 2007. And I just would like to have the opportunity to maybe serve again.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So those were our opening statements. We're going to start with questions. Again, you have 2 minutes for your question. We're going to try to stick to that so we can get through as many questions as we can. So if I will signal to you if we are getting to the end of the 2 minutes, and if I need to, I'll cut you off at that point. So we're going to start with Edie. Well,
Okay.
I'll try to cut it off gently. How about that?
All right.
All right. So Edie, we'll start with you. What brought you to the decision to run, and what do you hope to accomplish if you're elected?
I will have to plead innocent to not following the council's everything they've done in the last 10 years, 15 years. And my interest was piqued when a group of citizens decided that the Jefferson City area was not worthy of the Confederate marker out on Memorial Drive that has been there since April the 6th of 1933. And I attended the meetings, a couple of the meetings, I didn't know the real I didn't know how the monument got to where it was with the decision by the council until I attended a couple of meetings, because I wasn't interested, and I acquired the interest from the newspaper. Okay, so I thank you very much. And so I went to several of the meetings. The first meeting I went to was the Historic Commission of the City of Jefferson, made up of members that are appointed by the mayor with the approval of the council. And they had studied the issue. And the other commission was the Human Relations Commission, which was approached by a young man that went to high school here, but he does not live here anymore. Maybe he's moved back. I don't know. I don't have time to fool around with that. But he made a presentation to the Human Relations Commission and said that we are in the possession of a marker that is historically incorrect. And I am also the owner and caretaker of Camp Lily, which was erected. The home was built in 1857. General John C. Fremont stayed on my property, Camp Lily, in 1861. So I predated the 1864 event that came when General Sterling Price came through Jefferson City and decided to turn away and not fight in Jefferson City. So I'm very well versed in that history of what happened in 61 with Fremont, and then fast forward to 64 with Sterling Price. And the marker out there was put out there specifically because that is where the people believe that it would have occurred, that the Confederacy was coming through that area and were encamped out there in 64. And then he decided to, on October the 7th, to turn away and not fight in Jefferson City. So that piqued my interest. And I thought, this isn't right. Good and bad. Some of the people feel like it's historically correct. The other side said, no. And it made me mad. So that's why I decided to run for city council again.
Okay. All right. Laura, same question.
Anyone who knows me knows how I have a deep passion for historic preservation. Upon moving here, relocating here, for Catholic education for my children, I became very involved in historic preservation. I help with efforts to try to save the Bassman home, the Sam Cooke mansion, the Lohman home. And I also helped lead the effort to save and move the Wallendorf cabin, which is a 2-pen dog trot log cabin built in the 1830s, where Sterling Price actually stayed with his troops for 2 days and strategized and decided not to attack. But because we got the word out and made connections, Historic City of Jefferson, with those efforts, we were able to get it moved and saved. So because of my passion for historic preservation and our wonderful old neighborhoods, I decided to run for council to try to address the needs in those neighborhoods because they've been neglected for decades. The condition of sidewalks and curbing, streets, and the homes themselves. Also the safety of those. Although in living in our urban core neighborhoods for the last 21 years, I've learned that a lot of the safety concerns are due a lot in part to the condition and the way our neighborhoods look. Some of the projects that I have worked with city staff and supported was the Broadway street sidewalks leading to South School on past the hill on Broadway. This was a dangerous area for children because of the steep street hill there and for the kids to cross. And so I suggested it for our community block grant money because that pool of money is targeted for our lower income areas, neighborhoods, especially by schools. So that got completed. I also worked with city staff on the architectural details of the Dunklin Street Bridge. That was a long project. I had to work with the business owners because it just strung out for 15, 18 months. But now it's a beautiful bridge, that wonderful entrance into a historic neighborhood. But I want to continue working on those issues within our old neighborhoods and the infrastructure and the stormwater needs across the entire city.
Okay. All right. Very good. Next question. Laura, we'll start with you. What's going to be the biggest challenge you expect to face as a council member if you're reelected?
Funding is a big challenge. We have a lot of challenges every fiscal year with funding for our public safety personnel, for vehicles for them, for radios for them. We currently have 90 police officers and half of them don't have proper radios to communicate with law enforcement in the county, in the state. We're able to address some of the vehicle needs each fiscal year, but there's a lot more that needs to be done. So I think from a public safety standpoint, that's going to be a big challenge, and that needs to be addressed because with our current salaries for our police officers, we're not retaining our police officers, which is very important when community policing and forming relationships with those in the community to build trust, which helps solve crimes. It helps people to report crimes. So I would say funding and again, our infrastructure needs. A lot of our streets, I kind of get upset because some of the streets in my ward that I know need addressing get pushed back because we have infrastructure needs underneath water mains that are scheduled to be replaced. So there's no sense of throwing money and making it pretty on top of it, throwing money at it and then having it torn up again. And then our stormwater needs. I mean, we have struggled with that with all of the crazy storms that we've had the last few years. I've even gone to neighborhoods in Ward 4 and have looked at the destruction that this is making. I, on the council, with the rest of the council, has supported additional funding, $500,000 for Public Works to be able to hire some personnel to address those stormwater needs in-house. So a lot of the smaller issues and projects have been addressed, but we still have a big issue that needs to be addressed there. Thank you.
All right. Edie, same question.
Well, Laura has she's hit the nail on the head. Everything she has said brings me back to my time on the council 14, 15 years ago, and the same things were being discussed and try to solve and try to carry through with all of those infrastructure problems. So we're just rehashing the same thing over and over and over again. And all I can say is the main problem is funding. And if I had a glass ball to look into it and say, how do we take care of that without raising taxes, which the citizens are opposed to much of the time. It's a very difficult situation, but everything she has said, I would concur with, but I don't have the answer to the question. That's why 10 people are elected to try to discuss those kind of situations, study them, have the city staff do the homework, give it to the council, let them make a choice and a decision. And as I see it, you've got three choices. You vote yes, no, or abstain.
Okay. All right. So Edie, as a council member, what do you believe the biggest need is going to be for Ward 2? If you were to identify it right now, what's the biggest need for your ward as well as the city, which they may not be the same thing?
Once again, I have to give Miss Ward credit. She's hit the nail on the head. The ward is historically the oldest part of Jefferson City, along with part of Ward 1, okay? Mm-hmm. So the infrastructure is bad and housing is bad because people have either left it are the renters, that the people that own it are not being responsible, and their tenants tear everything up, and then they can't find a way to fix it. And I still use the term personal responsibility. If you're going to be a landlord and you're going to own homes in the oldest section in Jefferson City, you must be responsible for it. It's not the citizens of other wards in Jefferson City's responsibility to provide the money to take care of those homes in the ward. I'm very adamant about that. We have to have personal responsibility, and landlords should be held accountable for property that they own that they're not maintaining. Only in the case when natural disaster happens, like the tornado and flash flooding. You can't control that.
Okay. All right. Laura, same question.
Yes, and I agree with holding property owners accountable, and I supported addressing that issue. For those that are habitual offenders of that ordinance, we've increased fees and put in mechanisms for them to be taken to court. Due to that, we have been able to, roll over some of our housing stock to people that are more responsible, who are restoring them and making them available and to affordable housing. But going back to my answer on the last question, of course, infrastructure and public safety, of course. There are 3 projects that we're in dire need, a couple of them to address. One being the High Street Viaduct Bridge. We have concrete crumbling, and it doesn't meet ADA standards, and the council is going to be discussing the projects that will fit into our next capital improvement tax, which is H. We're currently in G, and that's one of the projects, and that's a $5 million project. The other one is a 2-lane Monroe Street. We have a lot occurring over in that area. We have a new surgery center that Cap Region has announced they're going to build, and that's going to draw, more traffic to that area, more visitors to that area. And then we also have the new Jefferson City High School sports complex, which I've heard is scheduled to begin this summer. And that's going to also draw big crowds to that area. So, addressing the need there for a 2-lane street. And also we have a small bridge over on Ohio Street that we've had to close down, and we just don't have funding to address. So those are the 3 immediate Ward 2 issues that I can think of. Okay.
All right. So Laura, next question will come.
Am I allowed to say anything in reply?
Sure, Edie.
All I want to say is on the High Street Viaduct, Laura, when I was on the council, I mentioned that to the engineering department, and so it's been
yeah, every year since I've been on too, because I also served on Public Works
before that at that time. Yeah,
for like 5 years, and every single month, when we were discussing projects that needed immediate attention.
Yeah, sometimes I think the city is reactive instead of proactive on big jobs like that. That's how I feel about that.
Yeah, takes funding.
Okay, let's go to our next question. Okay, this comes from a reader, and both of you kind of mentioned this before, that Ward 2 has to work with the other wards, consider the interests of other wards, as well as the entire city. So the reader notes there are many often conflicting opinions on city government priorities. If elected, what specific steps will you take to try to unite the community around measures that work for everyone? So we start with Laura on this one. Kind of goes to, how would you try to build consensus on the council?
Sure. Good question. I believe we have like 724 lane miles of streets in our city, and that's a lot of pavement to cover. With serving on the Public Works Committee for years, every year we would be brought, a listing of the streets needing addressed, and fellow council members are good to look through that list and make sure that each ward is being represented. Again, I mentioned that, when there's a need in another ward, I'm going to go there. I spent a Saturday going to several properties in Ward 4 when they were hit with, the stormwater issue. I think it's good not to think tunnel vision. I think everyone working together and addressing needs across our city makes our entire city stronger and better. Same way with public safety, and including everyone. I mean, we want our newcomers to be involved in city government. New ideas at the table is what's going to help our economy grow. So I would just say, listening and reaching out and not thinking, I only serve this particular area, and just knowing what's going on around us. I know, we've tried to be more welcoming to Lincoln University. We have a student liaison, our third one now, that serves on our council. And it's a wonderful way to be introduced to what's going on at Lincoln, but also participating in their activities. I remember being invited to participate in moving their freshmen in one weekend. So you learn a lot from someone riding in an elevator with them. But just being out there in the public, welcoming people, hearing their concerns, so when you're at the table what needs to be discussed.
Okay. Edie, same question.
Laura is repeating the same thing that I heard 15 years ago. And I still believe that open communication of all council members at any kind of a committee meeting is important. Unfortunately, in this last year, that's been impossible with the Chinese flu, okay? So, but that doesn't mean it hasn't been done in the past. And I am not up to speed with all of that, but everything that she is and the mayor conducts the meeting, but the decision making is done by the council with whatever the city staff has prepared for them to look at, and then you got to prioritize it is important. But I can't disagree with anything she's saying, and I feel I had done that or did that in the past, and I think with a little jogging and a little reading, I can get up to speed with all of that, and I don't disagree with what she has said. So I totally agree, except I will just say you've got to have open communication with everybody. You've got to give the public a chance to be part of it. And unfortunately, in our town, they don't become involved until the decisions have been made, and then it's too late. And that was done in the time that I served on the council also. So I don't know how to prompt the people to get active in their community, to get active and participate in what the 10 elected officials are trying to do.
Okay. All right. Next question comes from a reader. Edie, we'll go with you on this one. In 2013, Rand McNally judged Jefferson City to be a most beautiful small town in America. But today, many of our buildings are in very dilapidated states, boarded up with porches crumbling, roofs tattered, broken brick walls. How should the city address these problems?
The city is at a disadvantage because they don't have any money to take care of those situations as needed. And once again, you've got this kind of property that has not been taken care of by the owner. and the wheels at City Hall turn slow, okay? So when they end up with all that kind of a mess, they have to go to the housing authority to get the funding to pay for demolition or repair or whatever. And to me, that's using my tax dollar, because housing authority money is tax dollars from the local area plus money dumped in from the feds, okay? So, you know, it's just a vicious circle of funding, and staffing probably doesn't have 500 people that can go out and look at all this stuff and record it, even though I think they've done better at that. And then the average citizen reads about it in the newspaper or hears about it on the radio or hears about it from their neighbors or just drives around town. And it's been brought to my attention, just as, you know, from all of that bad weather we've had, Jefferson City is a trash heap right now. And I don't know how to, I think it's not, you don't blame anybody. It just so happened because of the weather. And hopefully, you know, we can get, everybody can get on top of it and maybe pick up trash and do what they got to do. But once again, it's funding, it's money. That's what it is.
Okay. Laura, same question.
This question goes along with, you know, why I initially wanted to run for council, you know, due to the neglect of our historic neighborhoods. I believe that our historic neighborhoods are a part of the puzzle to help with our economic development. I mean, I have a neighbor from New Jersey that got a job in Columbia with the university, and instead of choosing Columbia, he chose Jefferson City online because it was a beautiful historic home. So I think our historic housing stock can help with economic development. You know, what has happened up on East Capitol and that surrounding area is very unfortunate. That property owner, it didn't get like that overnight. It's, you know, the last 30 years, which is not fair to the property owners who are keeping their properties nice. It's affecting their property values. So the city had to step in. You know, we hired a consultant, an outside consultant from St. Louis, to come in and to determine if the area was blight, and it was. So then we were able to move forward with eminent domain. And no one likes the thought of eminent domain, but in this case, you know, the neglect for decades was costing also citizens their tax dollars, because the city was having to take care of the properties, keep them boarded up, keep animals and people out of them, cut the grass, abate the area. And those fees weren't being paid. Property taxes weren't being paid. So that was a tool we used for that area. Something else, I serve as a volunteer on the Southside Redevelopment Committee, and we have a affordable housing subcommittee where we worked with homeowners over on the east side who didn't know what to do with their house. They were overwhelmed. So we were able to overturn 5 of those homes and get them into other people's hands who are currently doing something with them. Right. We have the facade program.
Let me interrupt you for a minute, because our next question is going to go right into affordable housing. Okay.
Okay.
So, you'll be the one that starts it. So how can the city help address the issue of affordable housing? There is a housing crisis in Jefferson City. How can this city help address the issue of affordable housing, especially affordable rental housing?
That's a tough one. It's been challenging, especially since after the tornado. But you know, we had the problem prior to the tornado. You know, we have wonderful organizations, nonprofit organizations, who are addressing those needs as much as they can. And the city works with those organizations in order to secure them lots to build. Historic City of Jefferson has also worked with a business that is supplying bricks. So the homes that are being built by Habitat for Humanity have front facades, so they look nice and they fit into the neighborhood. I think it's going to take a lot of people around the table to figure this out. I mean, we're taking steps. You know, we have the community block grant that addresses, you know, our underserved, lower income neighborhoods that help with maintenance issues on properties, which also helps with our affordable housing because, you know, if you live in a home that you can't replace the furnace that went out, or it's leaking because you don't have gutters, or the foundation is leaking. So we're going to have to be creative in our zoning too. But most importantly, you know, we have to be open-minded and also look at where our affordable housing needs are and our lower income neighborhoods are, and make sure that there are things in that area that people can get to, you know, grocery stores. A lot of our old neighborhoods are food deserts. Our parks plan is addressing recreational needs in those types of, you know, areas where there's high population of youth. So again, I've been at the table, a lot of discussions, there is movement, but again, that's an issue that I would like to continue working on.
Okay. All right. Edie, same question.
Once again, it's a loaded question. It's a good question. Unfortunately, the tornado knocked out a lot of all that housing where people were residing. And I don't know how many stayed in Jefferson City. You know, if they found alternate housing, are they just abandoned? I don't know that. I'd be willing to look at the facts. You still got, once again, you've got that personal responsibility of landowners that had owned those properties. A prime example was in the paper today about the property, the school. Now I'm going to bring in the school. Wanted one more house over in the area of JC to get, and they couldn't even get the people that owned it on paper to respond to what they're doing. So they're doing the eminent domain thing. And I don't know if there's other places like that in town. And when we're going on 2 years for the tornado, and we still have property in the area that has been boarded up and or the roof is still missing. So I don't know who's got the magic dollars to come in and fix this up. And for sure, you can't put the burden on the taxpayer. Private corporations or private businesses, somebody else has got to pick up that tab. It's just not fair to the taxpayer to have to repair everything. Hats off to Habitat for Humanity. Hats off for any community development 501c corporation that is a not-for-profit that's trying to give back to the community. Hats off to the Catholic charities of the Diocese of Jefferson City for taking over property that belonged to the Parks and Rec Commission and going to make it a place for people to come and get help in that area, which is Ward 2. Hats off to all those people. But once again, I don't have the answer. All I know is from being a conservative voter, living in Jefferson City my whole life, with all my family living here their life, seems like we're in a stalemate and we can never fix it because it costs a lot of money. And I don't have the answer.
Okay.
Sorry. May I address a question that Edith had?
Sure.
She mentioned not knowing if those victims of the tornado had places to go. The answer is no.
Okay.
I took off 2 weeks from work and was up there every day. Me and a couple other council members secured a U-Haul, and we spent every day moving people's contents to storage sheds.
Okay. And thank you, Laura, for answering that question. I leave out, we can't forget the United Way organization here in Jefferson City, who
and the Red Cross.
who the United Way raises money, and they always go over their goal, and then at the end of the year they have extra money left over, and they put out requests for more funding. And I'm a big contributor to the United Way, and I agree with what they're doing, along with the Salvation Army and the Red Cross and all of those organizations. You're not going to find you're not going to find anybody better to try to handle these kind of situations, especially when their house burns down, or the flood took some of the residents. I've lived here my whole life, and that situation out on McCarty Street, that has never flooded like that, and who's to blame for that? God? I don't know, but you gotta look at it. And here again, we don't have the money.
Right. Okay. All right, let's go to our next question. All right. Edie, we'll start with you on this one. It comes from a reader. At least twice, the city has spent 6 figures to commission studies of public transportation. Each time, the need for more days and hours of operation has been stressed, yet has never been instituted. What improvements would you work toward for JeffTran?
Well, if I understand from reading the newspaper again, a lot of our public transportation, and if my memory serves me correct, when I served on the council, it's funded by the feds, okay? So, you're paying $1 to ride the bus doesn't cover the cost of running the bus throughout Jefferson City. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is, but I do commend the city staff and the people that are assigned that task to try to make public transportation easier for the citizens of Jefferson City, since we have no taxi service. I don't know how well the Uber operates here in town. I just, that's another problem, but hats off to the city staff and the present council who are trying to address that. But
Okay.
there again, money, money, money.
Okay. All right. Laura, same question.
Yes, we do perform a lot of, I can't come up with the word, studies, sorry. We do perform a lot of studies to see where the best location for pickup and drop-offs are. Those are usually federally matched grants. We currently have $450,000 that's being proposed in the upcoming sales tax H, if that passes. I get calls from constituents who need the transportation to get closer to where they're located, and I've worked through each one of those situations. It's funding. We've also have looked at electric buses, but they're very expensive. We just continue trying to look at, our roads and where the best location for, drop-offs and pickups would be as far as shopping, because of, where people live that really need transportation. They aren't close to places that they could get to for food or basic needs or even a job. But it's just something we have to keep working on. Also, something that really hurts is the fact that it stops at 5. So that hurts too for people who work after 5. But it does come down to funding.
Okay. Next question, we'll start with Laura. So it comes from a reader. In perception and in practice, Lincoln University and Jefferson City's relationship is too often focused on division or a disconnection. How can the council foster a better connection between the city and LU?
Good question. I mentioned a couple of things that I have done and what the city council has done. As far as, we have a student liaison, which has been wonderful. Having someone youthful that's participating in our city council proceedings has been nice and uplifting. Just get engaged. Like I said, I helped freshmen move in one year. Them just being around someone in leadership that is there to welcome them and help them, I think goes a long way. Something that comes up that happened shortly after I was on the council was Lincoln University wanting to change the name of Lafayette Street and to Tiger Avenue. And, when I first heard that, I thought that's a wonderful idea, that will help. But because of my nature, I became involved in some forums that were being presented during that time of people who lived in that area at the bottom of the hill from Lincoln, and what the name Lafayette Street meant to them. They shared their experiences growing up there, their memories. I took my 14-year-old daughter to it, and she was so moved. I saw her, wiping tears, and asked if she could sign the petition. So I think just reaching out, and listening. Lincoln wasn't aware of that. They weren't aware of the connection at all to our Black community, to the name of that street. So it never came to city council, it was addressed. So, again, it's opening yourself up, attend things to learn more so you can make a more informed decision.
Okay. Edie, same question.
Well, once again, I have to get back into the history annals of my brain and understand that Lincoln University is a very historic part of our community. And sometimes I think Lincoln is ignored. And I don't like that. I went to school over there took a couple of credit hours way back in the golden ages. And I enjoyed that was my only exposure to college campus life. And then I went to become a LPN at Nichols Career Center. So that was just a year of education. Once again, I have to agree with Laura. And one aspect of our city council previously and presently, and we might be losing that little connection with a council person. Ken Ferguson served, Carlos Graham's term limited off, and they had a connection to Lincoln with their job, and I thought that was important. So I wouldn't really want to lose that, but I don't think Lincoln is their own little village over there, and I'm glad that their students are participating in council meetings. But this year, for sure, it's been tough because I don't even know if they're on campus. If they're learning on campus, or at home with the computer. I don't know that. So, but I'm not disagreeing with Laura's. Anything she said in regards to our relationship with Lincoln is important. I agree, and I'm so happy to see the Gary Hill and the government, the United States or the Missouri legislature approving them to have a law enforcement academy. You can't go wrong with that. And those students over there that if they're from out of state or in Missouri, or even some of our local kids that are attending that, more powers to them, and hats off to people that decided to do that and got it approved. 100% for that.
Good. Okay, let's go to our next question. So Edie, we start with you. How would you rate the city's response to the pandemic? What did we do well? What could we have done better?
I think the Cole County Commission led a great effort with the health department that they're in charge of. And our city government followed what the health department said, along with the two hospitals, the healthcare professionals that advised or listened to Ms. Campbell and Ms. Schulte in their ability to do the best they can with the equipment and the stuff that they obtained. So hats off to the Cole County Commissioner. I would give a little jolly laughter here too to their obtaining masks and hand sanitizers from some company, and half the people didn't get them, or half the people did get them. And I commended Commissioner Bushman for saying, you know, we're not going to maybe pay that bill until we find out what's going on with that. And I think they did the best they can. And the city was not staffed with a health department. They've got an inspection department that does restaurant inspections, but they needed the expertise of the county seat, Cole County, and those elected officials with their staff of the Cole County government to take care of the epidemic, the pandemic, whatever you want to call it. But I think we're getting over the hump, and it's going to be all okay. And I also think that you've got to take personal responsibility for social distancing and the mask wearing. Either you do it or you don't. You got that freedom, that right. Nobody passed a law that said you got to do this, okay? And that's where I stand on that. And I just also agree that the city and the county must continue to work together on big issues like this, because we all live in the county of Cole and we pay taxes to the county, and then they in turn help the city of Jefferson. So, and when the county people come in to do their working here in the state of Missouri, which a lot of them do, the population grows and other communities come in to work here too. So the responsibility to take care of them falls to the city. So I think the Cole County Health Department and the commissioners should be commended, and the city of Jefferson's elected officials and the mayor are to be commended. They did okay.
Okay. Laura, same question.
I agree. We collaborated very, very well with our health professionals, our two hospitals, our Cole County Health Department, and our commissioners. At first, you know, that collaboration didn't exist. So I think a lot of people might have gotten more worried about what was going on and what direction we were headed. But, you know, it was a pandemic. I mean, no one had ever been through this, and, you know, we just figured it out along the way. You know, the Cole County has passed several advisories, you know, wear your mask, social distance, wash your hands, those three things. You know, there was some time where, you know, we were limiting the amount of number of groups, people in a group. And it was scary there for a while with our numbers in the hospitals, and there was concern, but, you know, hats off to everyone. You know, we did not shut down, but we were very, very urgent and caring, and work through it, and we're not out of it. We're not out of it. You know, we're currently moving into next week, Tier 3 for vaccinations. So I encourage everybody to get their vaccination and move forward. But and we adjusted too as a city council with online platforms. You know, we tried. I shared concerns from citizens who wanted more information on how to connect to those meetings. And, you know, our wonderful technology staff quickly made that happen. So there was ways that we got through it. And, you know, hopefully we can be back to normal by the end of the summer for sure.
Okay. All right. Next question, Laura, we'll start with you. It comes from a reader. The Parks Commission has approved the transfer of land making up East Miller Park to the Veterans Administration for the possible expansion of the National Veterans Cemetery. While Parks has identified other land for a new park in the area, the expansion plan has met some resistance in the neighborhood. What are your feelings about the National Cemetery Expansion Plan?
Well, honestly, we have not seen anything yet. The parks, they control their own property, and to my knowledge, there has been no vote to move this forward from them. Again, you know, how I explained how I like to get out into a neighborhood that this is going to affect. I like to just get out and speak and listen to concerns, have everybody at the table. You know, I have family that is both buried in St. Louis at Jefferson Barracks and in Leavenworth, Kansas. I would want my loved ones buried close too. So if this did come to the city council, I would, really listen and look over those plans and consider anything that's presented to the council.
So to clarify, would you be in favor then of expanding the cemetery into the park and then moving the park elsewhere?
Well, again, I don't know if that's going to come to us.
Right.
But to look at what is presented, like how many burial plots could be put in that area, and how long will it take before we're faced with the same situation we are now? You know, would it be better to locate an area where we could have a national park, or a national cemetery to use, you know, for decades, other than, you know, a short period of time? So again, it's also my understanding that parks would relocate that park, and it would depend on where that park was relocated and if it met the needs of the youth that live close to there. I don't want to say one way or the other. I am totally supportive of our veterans being buried in their home city. But I'm not going to answer something that I have not been able to research yet.
Okay. Edie, same question.
Ditto. I don't have enough information to give a on the spot answer, except I agree that our local veterans should have an opportunity to be buried in the area where they have passed away. But I don't have enough information. And Mr. Castor, when you said that the Parks Department is holding the plans, and then I guess the Veterans Council, they've probably got some stake in it too. And Laura is probably saying that she hasn't seen anything except maybe heard stuff through the rumor mill. And I would kind of have to lay claim to that too. I've heard stuff. The American Legion, I go out there frequently to sell cookies or help with the barbecues. And some of the veterans, they'll talk about that. They'd like to see something local for the veterans. And I would agree with that, but I don't have enough information to make a decision today.
Okay, fair enough. Let's go to our next question. Edie, we'll go with you. The city is finalizing a development agreement with a St. Louis-based group to redevelop the approximately 30-acre Missouri State Penitentiary property into a multi-use space centered around a hotel and conference center. As a potential council member, what concerns do you have as the city negotiates this development contract?
Well, first of all, I got to plead guilty again. I'm not up to speed on all of the minutiae, the stuff that's been discussed, except what I read in the newspaper. And I'm sure there's more pertinent information that I could get my hands on if I'm asked to serve by the voters. Excuse me. Once again, the prison redevelopment has been an item that's been tossed back and forth since the prison was left in 2004. Excuse me. So I think it's things are being looked at. Transfer of property has been done to the city for certain aspects of it to put roadways through there. And I know that they're running these wonderful tours through the prison that has always fascinated me. because I ended my career by starting to work in the Missouri State Penitentiary in 2004. And the first night on the job, somebody was murdered in the ice plant. So I had to go answer that call of somebody being dead, laying there dead in the ice plant. So, but I can tell you that my 15 years as a contracted employee of the Department of Corrections to provide health care for the inmates was the best time of my life for being a nurse, because guess what? I could just be myself, and I didn't have to do anything that was against my grain. So I still don't understand that people pay to go in there and sit in the gas chamber, to get their picture taken. I might have a little different outlook on that, but it's a tourist industry that is working for our community. So I'm not going to throw it away just because it's not something that I'm interested in. So if elected to the city council, I will get up to speed on the development of the prison development.
Okay. Laura, same question.
I've always been supportive of the redevelopment in that area. And you're right, our Convention and Visitors Bureau does a wonderful job bringing in tourists into our city. Again, that's helping our economy. Before the pandemic, they were up to over 32,000
It's
visitors.
unbelievable.
Avenue Landmark League. I listened to all their concerns and what they would like to see and what they wouldn't like to see. And, I have received nothing but support from the property owners in that area regarding everything that we've addressed, the infrastructure, the sidewalks, the overlay district. All of that is going to help even make the Missouri State Penitentiary development better and shine. Recently we were able to redirect the funding for Clark Avenue roundabout to go towards the infrastructure, the street that'll lead into the area back to the conference center. I think it's exciting, and it's kind of like a mixed use plan. We're talking about involving parks in it and having an additional ice rink there where we'll be able to bring in tournaments that we can't have at Washington Park. And again, that'll help our economy. And there's also discussions of living quarters, apartments in that area too, which would be great for walkability to work at the state offices and the federal courthouse there. So yes, I'm very supportive. I always have been, and I'm excited to see what's to come there.
Okay. Next question, we'll start with Laura. The council is exploring two sales tax proposals for the August ballot. One would be an extension of the city's capital sales tax, and the other is the public safety sales tax. Would you support either of these taxes? Why or why not?
I would support both of these taxes. The capital improvement sales tax, currently we are in G. So we've had this tax for 7 years, 35 years now. And I mean, it helps with instrumental projects in our city. And G, 1.7 million went to East High sidewalk and infrastructure project. For Dunklin Street Bridge, 2.8 million. For our street resurfacing in our city, 6 million. New fire station, which is 1.8 million. Our sidewalks every year, 500,000 goes towards that. And also it helps our transit. So I think it's important that we do support this next one, sales tax H. Regarding the public safety tax, that's something that we're currently discussing adding to the ballot in August. It would be a 4-cent sales tax. And this will address, our public safety personnel, our police and our firefighters, their equipment and things like cameras and radios, and address the salaries. I believe in order to get the salaries up to where they need to be would be $1.5 million. And again, we continue to lose good office community when you're dealing with public safety. So I am very of both the tax incentives for vote on in August.
Oh,
We lost him.
give it a second.
Can he hear us?
I'm back.
There we go.
There you are.
Ooh, I did not touch the computer.
You were blank.
Modern technology.
Left me breathless there for a minute. Okay, so I think we're to Edie now. Edie, would you like to answer that question?
Laura just did a fine job of giving me the Cliff Notes version of sales tax G and the law enforcement proposal that will be looked at for the August ballot. So once again, I beg mercy on the constituents to let me, if elected, get up to speed on everything that Laura so wonderfully give to my brain. Thank you very much, Laura.
You're welcome.
So generally, can you speak to if you would be supportive of them?
Yeah, the ongoing sales tax, I think when I was in the council, we were maybe on B or C or D or something like that. So we're up to G, and I have no problem with that. Another new sales tax, I would really like to see the proposal and what they would like. I am not against law enforcement having the best equipment that's available to them, especially
And fire.
And fire. Okay, thank you. Especially after last summer's rioting in cities throughout the United States. And, we're just a small little state capital here, but something like that could happen. And if we don't have the equipment and the personnel to take care of that situation, well, then that's our own problem. But once again, it is a money issue.
Okay.
Not opposed, but figure out how to get the money.
Fair enough. Okay, so let's go to our closing statement. So we'll start with Edie. You have 2 minutes to give your closing statement.
Well, this has been very fun for me and entertaining, and I've learned a lot. Miss Laura is very smart. She knows what she's talking about. I respect that. Mr. Castor, you ran a fair interview tonight. Thank you very much. And all I can say is when I was a kid in grade school and I was taught by Irish nuns at St. Joseph's Cathedral School, you couldn't understand what they said. And one of the most important classes that we students were exposed to was the civics class. And a couple of my fellow big mouth students and me, we decided that we wanted to be the leaders of that civics class. And the sister said, okay, what do you want me to do? I said, just give us the book, okay, with the answers in it, and we'll teach the kids. This was 7th and 8th graders. And so Sister Mary Peter and Sister Mary Bernadine obliged all of us mouthy students to do that. And I will never forget that because we learned the basics of civics through our Constitution and our Bill of Rights that keep our country the most freest country in the United States and in America. So I have always taken seriously stepping up to the plate when the opportunity arises to be a public servant, okay? And I am not a politician. I want to serve the public in a fair, firm, and consistent manner. I'm not afraid to speak up, And sometimes I'm told I say too much, and I know that. I don't know how to change that. It's just ingrained in me from those mean Irish nuns, okay? And so I felt like it was an opportunity to run again. The city council, the city changed this charter. I was term limited out. I still feel like I can serve the community. I can serve Ward 2. I can serve all the citizens of Jefferson City with common sense and honesty and integrity and a love for my community. Right or wrong, however people see issues that come forth, you've got to talk about it. We've got to discuss it. It has to be open. You can't do stuff behind closed doors. And you've got to get the people involved. And I think that I can still do that. Once again, I want to thank Laura for all the information that she's passed on to me. She is a hard worker. She knows her stuff about city council. I'm sitting here and I can tell you, she just gave me the Cliff Notes version of everything. And I promise if the people want to change leadership, that's their right and their privilege to do so. I'm just affording the people the opportunity to have another choice to run for the office of councilman in the 2nd Ward in the city of Jefferson and help Mayor Turgeon with her goals and ambitions to finish her time on the council. And that's all done in God's time and God's willing and his grace to me to keep me going. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Castor and News and Tribune, for speaking to the public on a computer that I don't really like. I'd rather be live, but it's okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Laura, your turn.
Well, I had Sister Vicky at St. Aloysius, so we shared something in common there too. But again, I want to thank the News Tribune for giving us the opportunity to share with the public why we're both running. Edie mentioned earlier, I believe in her opening comments, that she wanted to provide some competition, and I am happy for that. I mean, I think that is going to make me a better council person, and it will provide, our constituents in Ward 2 a choice, which choice is good. I mean, I wholeheartedly believe that, and I appreciate it, Edie. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
But, I've listening to concerns and understanding needs and working to find fiscally responsible solutions is what being a public service servant is about. I believe that it's more than just attending meetings. It's about getting out in the community, listening to concerns and needs, and working to find, solutions. I have a proven 20-year track record doing this since moving and relocating to Jefferson City. We're facing a lot of issues in our neighborhoods and our cities: stormwater management and aging infrastructure, police retention, public safety equipment needs, affordable housing, a stagnant population growth. I put my heart and soul into serving Ward 2 for the past 7 years nearly. I mean, in July, it'll be 7 years because I was appointed by the city council in 2014 to a vacant seat. But I've put my heart and soul into it, and I look forward to continuing to find more solutions to address all of these issues that we're facing. And I would genuinely appreciate your vote on April 6th.
All right. So I want to thank both of you for appearing in today's forum. I think it's a great testimony to Ward 2, two very strong candidates. We always talk about here that it's great sign of the strength of a community when you have contested races in these local races. This is where you can have the most impact on your neighborhood, your friends. And so we commend you both for running for this position. Now through the April 6th election, we're going to be accepting questions for all the candidates in the contested races. And so if you're listening, I would encourage you to send us questions. We'll be happy to run them by Laura, Edie, the other candidates. You can just do that by sending them to vote@newstribune.com. In the ensuing 3 weeks, we're going to be publishing answers to those questions. as well as stories on all the contested races in the Jefferson City ballot. Our coverage will culminate on April 4th, Sunday, with a reader's guide that kind of sets you up for who you'll be voting for on that April 6th ballot. Our goal through these forums, stories and question and answer columns, is to help you, the voter, make an informed decision on April 6th. We encourage you to take advantage of these resources, share them with your friends and family, and then get out and vote. So again, ladies, thank you for joining us today. I wish you both well in your pursuit of this post.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.